Nico. Welcome back to the first ever NicoCast. This is my brand new podcast, and the first guest is my brother, the co-founder of Monthly. So tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone, super excited to be here. Thank you, Nico, for hosting me. As Nico said, I'm one of the co-founders of Monthly, and what we do is we partner with some of the biggest YouTubers and creators, and any songwriter, musician, and we create 1 month online classes that are hands-on and that are immersive, right? So we try to partner with the biggest creators, and we create classes that people actually learn and create something.
Great. What are your hobbies?
Yeah, so I grew up playing soccer, tennis. I actually grew up in Cancun, Mexico. So I still like doing a lot of sports. I also love creating things and learning. I would say like that's basically my favorite things to do is just like learn things and create. So read a lot of books. Um, I love, you know, coding. I love designing. I love like painting. I love making music. So all of these things are things that we have in our classes. And just as a reminder, I think I missed something tell us a bit about yourself in the intro. I think one thing to note is I studied computer science in college. So I studied computer science and applied math, and this also relates to the hobbies because I basically took classes in over 16 different departments. So I love just learning from all sorts of things in all fields. So I took classes in urban studies or like design from Bristol. So I went to Brown University, and I just took a bunch of different classes, right? And ever since I grew up, I just loved making things, inventing, and then just like being an entrepreneur. So, yeah.
Cool. How did you start Monthly?
Yeah, so Monthly, it was it's kind of like a lifelong thing. So ever since I was a kid, I've always loved creating and learning things, right? And I've always also wanted to start my own startup. I always worked on a bunch of projects, and I consider myself an entrepreneur since I was a kid. So I did a bunch of iOS apps. I built websites. I sold things, and then like for Monthly specifically, I had already worked on a bunch of different projects, and I knew I was just like trying and experimenting many different things, right? And when I graduated from college, I had already interned at a couple of places. I interned at Snapchat, at Uber, and like a couple of startups. And I knew that I wanted to start my own thing, but I still didn't know like what was the idea, right? Like the thing that was gonna like take off, right? So I was testing up a bunch of different ideas, right? And Monthly, um, when I graduated, one important thing for starting a startup, like when you really want to get serious and do it full time, is to do it with a co-founder, right? So I had a friend that I met at Brown, Max Deutsch, and we both like really jammed together, like love working on things. So when I graduated, I joined him on a journey for starting startups. He was also like he had already graduated because he was a bit older than me, and he was also already like working on some of these things in the learning space. And that's something that, since I was a kid, I loved learning. So we basically started with a bunch of different like platforms and ideas, and one of them was Monthly. And I can go over like a little bit more of the origin story. So we both felt that, after graduating, there were a lot of things that we wanted to learn and create and do, but didn't have the space or the time or the structure to do that. And Max started a year-long project where every month he tried to master a skill. So 1 month it would be like becoming a grandmaster of memory by memorizing a deck of cards in less than 2 minutes. Or like another one was like learning how to do a backflip, right? So each month there was like a challenge, and I found that super cool. I also love learning. And so then I also started a project where like I did similar like learning challenges, but it was like throughout the year, and it was like a system that I learned things. Like it was 14 different things. It was actually 15 different things every week, right? So I just split it up. So I had kind of a schedule, and I would learn things, right? So we both, when we were brainstorming and working on projects, that was like something that resonated a lot, like with what we had done. We like loved our learning challenges and like, doing challenges and learning things and creating. And what we wanted to do is like, we're just brainstorming and we were like, okay, like what type of life do we want to have, right? Like how do we want to live? And for us, it's like we just love learning and creating things. So how do we create something that allows us to learn and create, right? And so then we were just like, okay, who do we want to learn from? And so that's when we got like the YouTubers, and that's when we got the idea for monthly. So a little bit of a long answer, but it was just like a long story of how it actually came through. Yeah.
Why did you choose the certain creators that are on the platform? And
Yeah. So basically, when from this story, right, we were like, okay, we were we wanted to make an online class platform that were like classes the way that we would want them to be done, right? Not something that is just videos, like something that is like actually hands-on and really cool, right? So, but for us, it's like we mostly just chose the initial people from like people who we want to learn from, right? So it's just like who are the people that we like watching stuff on YouTube, and it was like Andrew Huang. And who do we want to like learn from singing? And we just found like Stevie Mackey was like the celebrity vocal coach who's worked with Selena Gomez, Jennifer Lopez, Kanye West, etc. So okay, like that's legit. And same with the other ones, right? Like we thought like 1000s art was super cool, right? And right now, like for the people that we are onboarding now, it's the same, right? Like it's like always thinking about who do we want to learn, right? It's because other people want to learn from them too. And but also expanding, now we're expanding like not only who we want to learn from, but like who would other people also want to learn from too. um yeah, and so we're trying to find people that are like have deep connections with a large audience, right? So we're even going beyond like people from on YouTube. So yeah.
did you have to deal with copyright?
Yeah, so since the content that we were creating is like basically we're creating it from scratch, right? Each class we help them create the curriculum and create the classes. We had to create contracts that it's like, okay, like monthly owns the content, right? Like we're working with you and we're going to pay you in advance, but this is like the agreement that we have. Um, and yeah, that's how we were dealing with that. And like we just have to look into like if we shouldn't use like other songs or things that have copyright. So it's like, yeah, being careful about like how we do that. But since the content we're creating it from scratch, then it's more about like the agreement that we do with the creator. Yeah.
What's a typical day being one of the monthly CEOs?
Yeah, so as a co-founder, I it's a lot about trying to figure out what's important, and trying to figure out like trying to come up with ideas of like what to do, what's highest leverage to do next, right? And a lot of what I do is like do a lot of the coding into like the website, and like making sure that everything's good, like thinking about like the product features. So it's just like it's very different day to day, but and it also like has evolved as our team has expanded. So at the beginning it was just the two of us, but now we're six. We're gonna be just seven, and then like eight in over the summer. So it's like the team is growing, and so it's a lot of figuring out like, all right, what is, for example, like right now it's like, okay, we have the classes, and like enrollment is gonna open next Monday, right? So what do we have to get ready to open the new enrollments? So it's like that type of work, but it's like all over the place. I think it's so fun. I really enjoy working on own projects because you get to see the whole experience, right? And think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What expectations do you have for monthly?
Yeah, so I think monthly is super cool. I think it's gonna be, well, it already is like I would say like the most effective way to learn online if you want to learn all these like classes, right? If you want to learn music production, if you want to learn painting, if you want to learn singing, we like take a lot of time to create like really effective 1 month curriculums, allows people to really commit, right? And then inside the classroom, we like redesigned and like rethought from scratch how should a classroom look like online, right? So we have this like things that are like peer groups where you enroll in a class and you are put into a peer group of 20 other students from around the world, right? And so you get to see what everyone is working on, and like you get to comment. You have like feedback sessions, and then the creators are also like interacting with you, so they can comment, you leave, like post videos. So it's a very holistic experience. And so what I see, like, as we continue with monthly, right, is that we're just trying to make it the best way to learn online and create. And it's like a community, and it's a place where people go to live their full creative selves, right? And like this can expand to a lot of other things. Right now it's just like online classes, right? But you can imagine, at some point, like creating like a Disney world, or like a physical place where people come to learn and create. But yeah, I think for us it's just like right now, just adding more instructors, cooler people, and like improving the online learning experience. Yeah.
Let's say Google wants to buy monthly. Would you accept it? Would you and your co-founder say yes?
So I think it depends, of course. So if they say like, oh, like, I'm gonna give you like $50 billion, like, okay, like probably worth it. Maybe, like, we're not attached, but I think it's like very dependent, and we have to consider, what will happen, right? Like, 'cause I think this is like something really valuable that's helping a lot of people, and you just want to make sure that like where we sell, or like if we do, or like if it even makes sense, right, that like continues in a good way. But yeah, I think it would just be something that we would consider, because right now it's also like doing really well, and like, we've raised money from investors in Silicon Valley, and like we're backed by, the founders of Instagram, and like it's doing really well, and we have like really good revenue. So there's no really a need to sell, but we would consider and would figure out, like, what makes sense.
What's something you love about monthly?
Yeah, so I love seeing people's projects, right? So we have a thing called the learning path, where you're watching videos and then you're submitting projects, right? So the curriculum, all the classes are designed so you finish with something by the end of the month, right? So I just love being able to see people's whole learning path. So you see their whole journey of how they learn and grew, like, throughout the month, right? So just seeing that, I think, is so cool, and seeing like how, like, at the end, people are like, wow, I learned more in this class and in this month than in the past 10 years that I've been trying to learn making music, right? So seeing that it's just like people are like really learning, really affecting, and they just feel so good about it. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, okay, so this is the last question is kind of like, an extra question my one of my friends wanted to ask you. What's your favorite coding language? My friend Luca is asking this one. His personal favorite is JavaScript. What's yours?
Yeah, I think JavaScript is great, but yeah, I think honestly, JavaScript is like, a lot of people hate on JavaScript, but I think JavaScript is actually super. It's like so versatile, and like you can use it anywhere. You can use it in the back end for the servers. You can use it in the front end for all the website. I think it's a pretty cool language. I Python is another one that I think is like pretty, like, awesome. But I think for me, it's not that much about the language. I think it's more about like what you create with it, and what yeah, and then like about the concepts. Like if you want to learn something, just like knowing, usually with coding, right? Like once you really know how to think with code and like create things, then the languages are easier to learn, and it's easier than like learning a new language, like speaking, right? It's more like just learning a bit of like how some things change, and then you can do anything. So I think for me it's more about like what you create. Yeah, but Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on the podcast. There will be another episode soon with another special guest. I'm not gonna say who it is, but it's pretty big, so get excited for that one. Anyway, thanks so much for watching the first episode of this podcast. There will be more episodes in the future. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Nico.